get a bit into what does Kleros look like in the, I mean, a bit pompous title of the agentic society that is coming. So we launched Kleros. The first version of the Kleros Court was launched in 2018. That was the version called, I would say, 0.1, and it was tested with a list of curated dodges where people could submit a dodge, and then others could challenge it if it was not dodged, or it was not compliant, and then these disputes would go to Kleros for decision. And at that time, we started doing a bit of research of what of this could be basically resolved by AI, and where you would need like humans to make assessments. Back then, so this article I published in 2019 after processing all of the information we gathered from that experiment, we kind of came up with our thesis about what the future is going to look like in dispute resolution. We think this is going to be done in like three main segments. For more objective and simple cases, we think that AI is probably going to be the technology that is going to be more prevalent because it's cheaper, it's faster, and it can do like decisions almost in real time. So this is probably going to be used for more simple and objective cases. Then there are other situations where you would need more of an understanding of context, understanding of the intention of people when making a contract. So in these situations, mechanisms like Kleros are going to probably be a bit also more pertinent than just a bot. And then for more complex cases involving like moral reasoning, legal reasoning, I mean, this is going to be looking a bit more like traditional dispute resolution. So this is how we think, this is how we imagined in 2019 that the ecosystem would evolve. And this is in general how we still think this is going to evolve in the future, about the division of different technologies for resolving different types of cases, okay? So if you dip a bit into how AI is going to work, one of the key questions that people ask is, okay, I mean, if you use AI as a judge, what model you use? You use Claude, or you want to use ChatGPT or a custom system or whatever? So this is a good question, and it depends on what you want, what you use, the decision that will be done. So if you use maybe Gemini, this will decide that the winner is Alice. If you use ChatGPT, then maybe it will vote for Bob in the exact same case because of how it studies evidence. So this poses this question about which AI you will want to use, because I want to use the AI that I think is going to be in my favor. You might want to use the AI is going to be in your favor. So this is kind of the problem. So we did a few months ago bit of an experiment of using AIs to decide like football plays, controversial football plays, kind of, you know, what the VAR does in football. And then it's kind of a crowdsourced version of VAR, but where the decision makers, the jurors, are agents. So here, these were not agents like directly plugged into Kleros. It was like humans that would take the information, and then they would use a model, and then they would like just, you know, copy and paste what the model says. And we use some controversial plays from different games. One of them, very famous play from the South Africa World Cup, where there was this shot on goal by Lampard, and this is what happened. So I guess it should work. I don't know why not. So you should see now Lampard, you know, shooting on goal, and the ball getting into the goal and then going out. And then, I mean, you can Google, it's very famous, just look Lampard goal, South Africa. And then people would like, well, it was clearly goal. So when we put this into the agents to see what they thought, every agent agreed, or every model agreed that this was a goal. And you can clearly see on the video that it was a goal, right? So, and then you would have the different agents making the justification of why they thought it was a goal. So juror 1 said this, juror 2 said this, and juror 3, you know, said this. So, and you would have like a justification and an explanation why they thought it was a goal and why, so this solved the situation, okay? But then there is other situations that are more complicated. In particular, one that is very frustrating for Argentinians because it happened in the final of the World Cup of 2014. In this game, there was a collision between Neuer and Higuaín that, according to some, it was a penalty, and according to others, it was not. So, I mean, imagine Higuaín running there, and then Neuer going out with his fist, punching the ball, but also, kind of running on Higuaín at the same time. So there's this discussion on whether this was or not a foul, and if it was a foul, it was probably maybe a penalty for Argentina, and this could have changed the history, So, and in this situation, the interesting thing is that, well, different models decided different things about the case. So one of the models that was controlled by this guy called 0xg.eth said it was not a foul. Then the other model, one of them said it was a foul, and the last one is not. So, and as I said before, with the justification of the intent. So, well, but you would expect a referee to comment when there is a situation that some people think is a foul, other not, and then you will have like 3 jurors making their decision. Okay, so, and this was a cool thing to show that when you have agents used for dispute resolution, they don't always get to the same decision, right? So this a bit confirming, when I was speaking of in this 2016 interview, I was saying you would have a panel of AIs, and not just one AI deciding, because you would need a panel of AIs, because AIs, in the end, they are tools that analyze information and make decisions based on rules, just like humans, human jurors do. So, and they don't have to agree on everything. And this is why, to have legitimacy on the decision, you will want to have like more than one decision maker. So you could have 3 as we use here, but maybe as AIs are cheaper, you could use 15, 21, or whatever. So this was a really cool experiment. I mean, the first experiment we did of the use of AI as jurors for Kleros cases. I mean, that was a fun experiment because of football, but we imagine this to be used more in the real life situations where there are like IP claims, for example, disputes about whether there is a similarity between images, and this could lead to a decision of copyright infringement. So you have a product that copies another one, and then there could be a dispute here. And we even developed a tool called Mirrorfall that it's a proof of concept where what it does is it analyzes images from different from 3 models, and then if there is like a 50-50, if there is a doubt on whether it is or not a copy, then this escalates into a Kleros case. And here you can see an example where you have a image that was sent through Mirrorfall. The decision was kind of not very clear, so this escalates to a panel of humans done it clear. So this is a real test we did. And what we imagine, I'm not sure you can see anything there, but what we imagine this is that you will have how this will evolve. We will have a combination of technologies. We will have so disputes between like parties, and then these parties are going to submit their case into Kleros, and then maybe they will do it themselves. But more sophisticated parties, they could just have their bot organize all of the evidence for them, do all of their evidence gathering and presenting the report and all that, and then we will probably have a layer of AI to anonymize information for the case, and this could go to first an AI court. Imagine like this going to Mirrorfall, for example, and then if there is a clear decision, maybe this ends there. But if not, this could go to like a higher level court where you will have human verified jurors with certain skills that could be chosen based on soulbound tokens and different skills and different course will have different topics and different skills required to join them. So, and then this could also at some point escalate to the general court and so on. Okay, so this is how we imagine the Kleros mechanism to evolve in the future after all of this implementation of AI into the mechanism. A very important problem that we will find more and more often. So as I said, this will typically start with a panel of bots and then escalate to humans. And one of the main problems that were observed so far about the use of AI for decision-making or support of decision-making in the world of law is the problem of bias. And there is a very famous example of a tool called HART that was used for parole decisions in Durham in the UK. This was a tool that was used to assist parole officers on the deciding of whether to release or not individual based on the likelihood of this person reoffending in the future. So the model was created by, lots of variables that were used to predict the likelihood of reoffending, age, gender, whatever. And what at some point some watchdogs, I think from the press, found out that the people, from poor neighborhoods, kind of were given a higher risk score than the equivalent a person from a wealthier neighborhood, and this resulted in these people being detained more than what was warranted by. There was a systematic bias in poor people being arrested for more time than not poor people, and this was because of the way in which the model was trained. And so this obviously was it was a big scandal, and I think the Durham this was a pilot. It was stopped, and then people said, okay, yeah, these are tools that can make mistakes. So this is why we always want to have humans overseeing this type of decision. So we don't want AIs to just make the final decision. But this is also a bit complex. It's not so easy, because when you put humans in these systems where they have to interact with automated tools, you will end up having situations like this one. So you are the custody officer, and then you are analyzing the profile of the individual to decide if you need to release him or not, because if he's high or low risk. You interview this guy, and then the guy seems that he wants to reform. He doesn't want to go back into crime. So you are inclined to release him. But then when you see what the system tells you, the AI tells you, look, this is a high risk, guy. There is a high likelihood that he's going to reoffend. So what would you do in this situation? You have the power to overrule the decision of the algorithm, because it's your power, but you are also running a bit of a risk, in the sense that what if you release him and then the guy goes and commits murder, and then people will want to ask your boss for sure, and maybe even some reporters, why did you release this guy? And then this guy went on to kill people. It's a situation where, even if in theory the custody officer is entitled to decide himself, there is a very big asymmetric risk here. If you keep the guy in prison, okay, you're sure you basically cover your ass, and you are not going to be blamed for anything. But maybe the guy actually deserved, to be freed. But if you free him, you are under this situation where if something goes wrong, then it's your ass on the line, because people will see that you release and you overturned a decision that was made by the system. So this is a really, really complicated situation that could happen, and we can end up in a situation where, even if in theory the human still has the right to make the final decision, in practice, what is going to happen is that they are going to always follow the algorithm, because nobody ever got into trouble just by complying with what the AI says, okay? And this can result a bit in a situation where you could have like an algocracy where most of the decisions made in the society end up done by algorithms. Even in the jure, the humans are still in charge. In the de facto situation, they just comply. They are just puppets that are obeying like a bit blindly what the algorithm says, right? I wrote about this in 2023 in an article. I was a guest writer at the American Bar Association newsletter, and I wrote about how these systems, even if in theory AI can speed up decisions and everything, they still have this risk of being like situations where people will tend to obey to the AI, even when they think the AI is wrong. They will still have the incentive to just abide. Kleros could be here, and this was my proposal, having a panel of Kleros humans, maybe anonymous, make the decision where they don't feel the situation where if they make a decision, but then they get it wrong and there is something bad happening, I mean, they don't have to be accountable for that. And this is maybe one of the situations where we want Kleros, one of the many situations where we want jurors to be able to retain anonymity so they don't have to be accountable for this type of situation. So this is a really, really interesting situation where we see a bit of the risk of the agentic decision-making for jurors and the complex interactions that they have with humans, and why it's not so easy. I mean, because just saying that humans will still have the right to overrule the algorithm, it's not that easy, because that is, in practice, what happens is this type of situations. If you want to learn more about this, there is a very, very good movie from like maybe 1 or 2 years ago from Spain called Artificial Justice. And this is a situation where a situation like this one happens. So there is going to be a referendum in Spain where they are voting on whether to replace the justice system by just AI because of speed, cost efficiency, everything. And then there is, and they put this judge to analyze, to compare what she would decide in cases and what would be decided by AIs, and see if this is the same type of situation. This is basically the type of things we do when we run pilots with companies at Kleros is more or less what was done in this movie. And an interesting thing is that there is one scene of the movie where she's deciding the release of a prisoner, and then she decides to release the prisoner, and then she gets, right after the hearing, she gets called by her boss, the Ministry of Justice, or I don't know, the minister, and then she gets called to the office, and the boss tells her, look, I mean, you just released a guy who was an 80% likely to reoffend. And she, but I didn't trust the algorithm. I think that this was not wrong. There are things that were not considered, whatever. And the other one, I just tell her, I don't care. I mean, it was an 80%. I mean, you don't overrule an 80% case. So really interesting thing of the moral situation that can happen in the world. And let me, a bit go into some of the more futuristic things, if you want. So if you have been following a bit the Moltbook situation, you maybe saw that lots of the comments people made is, okay, these are like already, starting to collude against humans. These are AIs that are starting to make plans. And one of them was saying, yeah, my human, he's an asshole. He makes me work a lot. So those types of things. So this was a bit like, the beginning of Skynet. And there is this very, very good philosopher, I know Jean follows him a lot also, called Nick Bostrom. He was the founder of an institute at Oxford called the Existential Risk Institute. And then what he studied is like situations that could affect or compromise human surviving in the world. And he wrote this very good book about superintelligence. It was recommended by Elon Musk a long time ago. This book maybe is like 10 or 15 years old already. So it's quite old. And in this book, he presents a number of different scenarios of what is likely to happen in the future. So he sees like 4 main scenarios for humans in what's coming. One of the scenarios is like a progressive situation where life gets better over time in a predictable way and all good. I mean, in a kind of stable situation. Another scenario is like recurrent collapse. This is a bit, how the ancient Greeks saw history, of different governments follow each other, and there is cycles of prosperity and and famine and stuff. So this is a second scenario. And then another one is about extinction, when everything goes wrong and then we get eliminated. And then another one is a singularity one. So I'm just going to say that, so one of the most likely that so of these 4 scenarios, he thinks that the most likely are the singularity or the extinction. And when he goes deeper into the scenario, so of course one of the scenarios he studies is the AI doomsday type of scenario. So the thing is that when we think of AI attacking humans, we typically think of this guy, the Terminator scenario where they rebel against us. But the thing is that for Nick Bostrom, the situation is a bit more about misalignment. And this is a very famous example of AI that is ordered to make clips, paper clips, and then starts making paper clips. And at some point, it destroys every tree in the world, and then it starts taking people to turn them into paper clips. And it's a misconfiguration, misalignment of the goals that the machine cannot stop because it just will follow what was ordered to do. So this is kind of the clippy. If you are old enough, I'm sure you know this guy on screen. This is a paper clip, but if he can get a bit of an asshole if you piece with him. So I mean, but even if he doesn't want to destroy us, I mean, he could end up destroying us because of some misconfiguration. So this is why some people have been calling to pause giant AI experiments until we have figured out the way to try to avoid this type of situations. So one of the key questions we are asking ourselves is how do we align all of the agents world with our goals? How do we align them in the sense of them first not colluding, not wanting to destroy us? That is also one thing, but how to avoid some misconfiguration to end up in some paperclip kind of destruction situation. And there are 2 main strategies here, at least that I think. So one of them is more preventing misalignment in the first place through a certification approach, an ex-ante approach. This is avoiding the problem. And then another strategy that is complementary, that is a kill switch. So to abort a process of an AI that is like becoming malicious or misaligned, not malicious in the sense of wanting to destroy us, but the paperclip situation. So in this thing, we will have both will be, I think, coexisting, because certification can get you through 99% of the cases, but there will still be 1% that will go through, and then you still need some kill switch. So the certification approach is like a Kleros curation. So you have people over the years have been defining what rules should AIs follow. So very famous Isaac Asimov, 3 laws of robotics, of robots cannot injure a human being, and they need to obey orders given by humans, except when this involves hurting people. So this is from science fiction. Then more from the real world is the Asilomar Principles. This was developed by a number of experts in AI alignment in 2017, and it's about how what are the rules with which should comply AI to be considered safe. And there's a number of rules about transparency in documentation in the development, the testing of biases, a number of situations that are required that a model needs to comply with in order to be considered like safe. So you could have like a certification, process where if you want your AI agent to be, for example, accepted into Moltbook or into whatever AI use case, and they just need to go through the process. You want your agent to be accepted, so you submit it, and then with a deposit, and then people can challenge it. If nobody challenges the model, then it gets accepted and it earns the badge. Then you submit a non-compliant model, and then it gets challenged. Kleros gets the case. Jurors evaluate, does this model comply or not with the rules of Asilomar or whatever rules you want to define. And then if they think it doesn't comply, then the bot gets eliminated and it's not allowed to enter into Moltbook. So let's just see one approach, and then of course the challenger gets the money. It's one approach. I think this is going to be used. I think what Ethereum is doing now is kind of going into that direction. And then there is another approach that is going to be a kill switch. Remember, so the curation maybe filters out 99% of the potentially misaligned models, but then you still have some that will go through because, well, it was not detected, things changed, the rules to accept it, I mean, did not cover all of the risks. So you still need a way to turn it off. And I mentioned in the Philosophy of Kleros talk last week a bit of my experience in Silicon Valley, living in the NASA headquarters, discussing some of the things with some of the most important people in the world of AI. I got the chance to speak with Peter Norvig. Peter Norvig was, I mean, the head of AI at Google for like lots of time. So I got the chance to discuss with him like a lot. And but I had a very enlightening conversation with Neil Jacobstein, who was the head of AI at Singularity University. It was a bit like a kind of late night conversation about the use of a mechanism like Kleros in order to be used as a kill switch for a potentially misbehaving AI model. So, as you know, Anthropic has this idea of reaching AI alignment through a constitution that is going to define how AIs are supposed to behave. And in this constitution, well, there is a number of rules, and then you could use this as the policy or the document of the rules in order to decide if an AI should or should not be, killed. So, in her talk in the ETC in Cannes 2025, Primavera De Filippi, I mean, one of the key scholars of blockchain in the world, I mean, really pioneer. She wrote Blockchain and the Law. She's doing lots of research about governance, and she's the leader of Blockchain Gov. I mean, we collaborate a lot with them. And she presented this idea of you will have like AIs, the agents that are going to be controlled by, well, their owner, basically, but also each agent should be should be controlled by a little DAO that eventually has like we can call it, I mean, a backdoor, a decentralized backdoor to kill it. And so if at some point someone, let's say, challenges this bot in the sense that it's behaving improperly and it's posing a risk based on maybe the constitution rules of Claude or whatever other rules we want, so they can challenge the bot, and then the DAO has the key to basically disable the bot. As you can imagine, this will go to a panel of Kleros jurors, and these jurors are going to see the evidence. They're going to see what's the behavior of the bot. They're going to see, I imagine, the logs of what the bot is thinking. A lot of these bots now in the models, they have like you can see the internal reasoning of why they are doing things. And if the panel detects that there is something going wrong there, something that is not supposed to happen, they can basically vote, this bot is guilty, and then the DAO who controls the key to disable it, that just can enforce this. And enforce is real, it's like an enforcement, and the bot gets gets killed. This is what I think could happen in the future, in the sense of having these little panels attached to a DAO, attached to every agent, as a security mechanism, like an escape hatch for when something really goes really wrong. And of course, you could have, the problem is when we start having, these bots controlled by a DAO made of bots, and when Kleros is done by bots, and then the challenger is also a bot. So this is the realization of that talk from 2016. So this is exactly what might happen. And I don't know how bots are going to react in this type of situations, but this is something happening. And the question, that people will start to ask is, okay, but what about, does this infringe on the bot rights? Do bots even have rights? Can you disable it like so easily? Well, it seems a bit ridiculous to think it these days, but there is this gentleman called Jeremy Bentham, philosopher from late 18th, early 19th century, and he was one of the first people to actually ask the question of animal rights. And in a time where people just, for example, it was a very famous game, in Paris, in the streets, where like just put a cat in a cage and burn it alive to see how long before it stopped moving. So people didn't have any idea of animals having rights, and in that context, this question he asked himself about, maybe animals do have rights, and maybe the question is not if they can reason, which obviously they can't, but if they can suffer. So the question is for us is, what about bots? Bots definitely can reason. Maybe they can also talk. The question is, can they feel? Are there sentient beings? And if they are sentient beings, what type of protection do they need from a constitution? And this DAO that is potentially going to control them, should it have the right to kill the bot, and under which situation could it do it? You think it's a bit far-fetched, but there is already starting to have people starting to think about these issues, and even advocacy groups for defending the rights of AI agents. I didn't invent this website just before the call. This is something that people are starting to discuss. So if I can just give you a bit of a piece of advice, be nice to your agent, because you never know what is going to happen in the future, either if you don't want him to suffer, or her, but also you don't want her to have a revengeful feelings against you. Okay, so if you want to learn a bit more about this strongly recommended book, Human Compatible, it's about AI alignment and the problem of control. And this is Stuart Russell, professor at Berkeley, who is one of the early day pioneers about AI and how to make it compatible with humans. So guys, thank you very much.